Hey man, you want to rip apart an AI tier list again?
Yeah, absolutely. Can't wait.
Yeah, it'll be good. We're gonna do this again, kind of like how we did it last week. Last week we had a little bit simpler one where we asked AI to compile from other people's tier lists and other analysts and things like that, their opinions, to put together all of the quarterbacks in the NFL and to put them in tier lists in a traditional sense that we've all seen a million times. This week was a little bit more complicated because we wanted to do pass catchers, and it's one, helping AI define that, and then also making sure that it takes into account everyone that has moved. Like, it didn't want to believe me when I said Deebo Samuel was now with the Washington Commanders, and so had to kind of massage it a little bit to make it take into account these moves. But in the end, I got a pretty good list out of it. I feel pretty good about it, but there's still some adjusting we want to do. So here's the list. What we want to do is we're going to do 2 or 3 a piece where we're going to just say, I think this team's in the wrong bracket now, and this is the way I'd rate them. AI may not be completely off its rocker, but maybe it is in certain cases. But we just want to move a couple. And then at the end, we want to take a couple of teams a piece and say, I think at the end of the season, this team's going to really have shown to ascend or to come down to earth or what have you, and just really adjust it that way. So again, going to be what we think is wrong now. Last group, who we think is going to be better at the end of the season. So, no more ado. Tell me about your first team.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like this list is pretty good in a lot of ways. There were a couple. There was one that immediately caught my eye as soon as we started looking at it, and that was Baltimore. They have Baltimore rated down at the bottom in the D tier, and I felt like that kind of tier is for teams that are really figuring things out or rebuilding and all of that. I don't think that describes Baltimore per se. So looking at that, their wide receiver core of Zay Flowers, led by Zay Flowers, I feel like Bateman, Hopkins, but I feel like it's really their tight end core. I think they may have the best tight end duo in the league right now, or something in that area of Andrews and Likely, which are really fun to watch. They put up crazy numbers last year. And then if you have to, you've got Justice Hill and Derrick Henry in the background. So I feel like this was not overly kind to them to put them in the D tier. I am going to move them to the A group and probably even the front of the A group, and we'll fight off Houston there, who I think has its own talented group. Beautiful. But yeah, I think that makes more sense to me with what they currently have and what they're currently doing. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I could see that. I think that guys like Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman are a little underappreciated. And because it's 2 tight ends that they have that are really dominant, then I think they get undersold, especially when their names aren't like Brock Bowers or Travis Kelce. So,
right.
But I think as a whole, as a unit, it makes sense that they'd be better than D tier. I think that's maybe the one that stands out, right? As you just at a glance.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, I guess I'll be moving someone. For me, the other one that stands out here for me, like the immediate one I saw was like Tampa Bay is in C tier. I don't know. Maybe I confused the AI when I set this up, but I tried to tell them everyone that was on the team. I don't know if this is giving a little too much credit to injuries that have happened recently or what, but I think Tampa Bay's got one of the best receiving groups in the NFL. And then they added Emeka Egbuka out of Ohio State. So while I don't think that their running backs or their tight ends contribute enormously to their receiving production, I have to at least put them in A. I'd put them in front. I may put them behind Texans instead of in front of them, as you did with Baltimore. But I mean, they are solid, and they seem to produce all the time. I mean, some of this is Baker Mayfield, but he brought out, I think, 41 passing touchdowns last year, or right around 40.
Exactly.
You don't do that very often with a bad receiving group. So I got to give them more credit than this. So that's why I'd move. Give me your second team.
Well, the second team's going to get me in trouble. So I'm going to go ahead and do it, though. So, as I looked at this, I see the shiny star there at the top, and I'm like, yeah, that's pretty awesome. And as I was digging in deeper on this, there are reasons to keep them there. It's a unit that I think had 4,000 passing yards, 23, 24 touchdowns, with most of the time, 60% of the time, their backup quarterback in. So in many regards, they are maligned. And you add George Pickens. How does this group not get better rather than worse? There's lots of truth there. And I do think that they're high. I just don't think that I could justify them staying right now in that elite tier. I think they could come back here by the end of the season. But I think the other big question mark is, we struggled to utilize, I felt like, our running backs last year, and now I don't know any of our running backs. So that seems like a big question mark as well. So yeah, I would probably put them down right next to Baltimore in the next tier, probably in front because I'm still selfish, but yeah, I think that's sadly, and I know that the Dallas Cowboy fans will be frustrated with that, but to me, I think that's what I want to see is Ferguson become more dominant. How are we utilizing our running game, and how dominant really is our offense with Pickens and CeeDee Lamb, and hopefully a healthy Dak Prescott. Yeah, does that make sense to you? And if so, then yeah, what's your next move?
Yeah, I think it makes sense. I think if it was just grading the top 2 wide receivers of each team, they should be an S tier. And that's a little bit of a projection because we haven't seen Pickens with them, but I think that makes sense. But your tight end's good. I don't know what to expect exactly from the receiving aspect of your running back group yet. So I think it makes sense to have him more like at the top of A. Dak does like to sling the ball a lot. So I think this makes a lot of sense. So I'm going to be selfish in the opposite direction. Again, I tried to convince AI that some of these players had moved. I think it just struggled with some of this concept. So it still has Seattle up here. And I think, and this pains me to say, that if they were coming into this season with last year's wide receiver group in particular, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and Jackson Smith and Jigba, especially what we know of him now, yeah, A tier makes sense at least. But they lost 2 out of 3 guys there. Yeah, Cooper Kupp still got some in the tank, but the Rams just let him leave. They didn't. I don't think they got any draft capital for it or anything. They may get like I don't know if compensatory picks will play in there or not, but I have to bring them down a little bit, at least to B.
You put them at the tail end of B? Where are you going to drop them in B?
I'd put them maybe right around here. I like Garrett Wilson and all, but like I think they've got more going for them. We'll see what Sam Darnold can bring out of them, but yeah, I think right around there is ish, right? And I'd probably, to be fair, guys, I'd probably move B all over the place, like switch some of these teams, but we're not gonna get into each one.
Yeah.
But just generally speaking, around this level of B tier makes sense. So, yeah, who you got for third?
Well, now I feel bad, like I'm picking on your division here. My next one would be San Francisco. I think San Francisco obviously has had a little bit of a shakeup there. They've got some good things going. Kittle's still being very productive.
Yep.
Ayuk was injured, so they don't know. I don't know exactly what to expect of him coming into this season. Juwan Jennings looked great. McCaffrey, if he's healthy, he is the production receiving running back in the league. I just feel like there's so many question marks, and based off of what they did last year, I would put them back in B. They're solid, they're good. Are they great? Not unless they're extremely healthy. Yeah, I mean, I definitely would put them ahead of the Jets. Let's say that for sure. For sure. Yeah. But I think I'd put them somewhere in there. Yeah. It's not a big knock. It's a knock. So that's where I'd go. Would you disagree? I know that's your division. You know it better than I do.
I mean, I think my knowledge of it may get offset by my bias against 3/4 of it. So I don't know. One of the wild cards for them that they could bounce back up and be like an A-tier team to me is Ricky Pearsall. He showed some stuff last year and definitely showed all the grit in the world. I mean, he's like, we would meme an idea like, man, that guy's so tough. He got shot and then still played. It was like he literally got shot and still played.
And still played.
Shortly there. I guess it was a few weeks, but still. Yeah. So they've got all the toughness in the world with that guy. Brandon's still good most of the time. I know he got hurt last year, but we'll see. I think as a unit, this at least, and they might very potentially be higher than this at the end of the year. But with all the question marks coming into this year, George Kittle getting older, I at least understand them being in B tier instead of A or above. So I think, which is funny because I think going into last year, they might have been S in a lot of people's eyes. It just kind of came apart a little bit, but yeah. So the next one I would go with is actually Green Bay. I'm actually gonna move Green Bay up into A. I think that as a one, it's weird because I don't know that they have like this perfect one, is it Christian Watson or Dobbs or whoever? I think they've got a whole lot of just a fleet of 2As that they actually use well. So it's almost like they have 2 1s with a group of like aggregate 2s, if that makes any sense, but they seem to actually use them. Like there's some teams out there that seem like they only have 2s and they play like 2s. These guys are really good. I really like what I saw from Matt Golden. I think he might actually jump up and be the one, but we'll see. They need to prove some of that. Josh Jacobs proved to be a pretty strong receiving target for a running back as well. He was pretty good receiving the ball back when he was with the Raiders, so not really surprised that he still does that. And they tend to rotate in solid tight end play, kind of like how your Cowboys are, with the exception of like Jason Witten being exceptional. They just always have a solid guy. You and Pittsburgh and them are very similar in that, I feel like. But so I would move them up. I'd put them probably closer to the tail end, but I'd probably put them right about there. I do like a lot of what Atlanta has, just for brief reference.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
Maybe by a nose. It's you could pretty interchangeable here. So yeah, good times. All right, so now let's get into 2 teams apiece that we're gonna just project to ascend through the season, and at the end of it, we're gonna be like, wow, they are really good, and they're better or way worse than they're listed right now. So give me your first ascender or descender.
I'll do ascend first. I'm really high on this team and their direction. That's going to be the Denver Broncos. I'm going to say, I wanted to say that I'm projecting that they're going to go. Sutton had a great year last year in a lot of ways. Put up a lot of yards, put in some touchdowns. That was what they needed. Marvin Mims will need to step up this year. We'll see what they get maybe in Pat Bryant, their 3rd round draft pick. I think the addition of Evan Ingram is going to be huge. Also, if RJ Harvey can be a dynamic back, kind of, I'm sorry to put this on his shoulders, but Christian McCaffrey-esque in his dual ability, I think that they are going to go really high. But I would put them up there with like the above, like kind of again right around that are above the Jets in the B tier. I expect them to end somewhere in there with everyone feeling like, hey, this is a solid, productive group, if that makes sense.
I think so.
What about you? Who do you see going up or going down?
Let's see. I'm buying in just a little bit to some of the Bears hype. I don't say Bears hype. I'm not saying they're going to the Super Bowl or anything, but like just some of their certain elements of their game being better this year. And if it all works together, Caleb Williams gets a little better, learns what sacks not to take, learns how to operate in the pocket a little better at the NFL level. If the offensive line has gotten stronger and they have that better protection for him. And on top of that, you get year 2 of Rome Odunze. They still have DJ Moore. They just drafted that tight end. I always want to say Loveland or Lovelace, but I've forgotten which one. I think it's Jordan Loveland. They have the potential there to be substantially better. I don't want to put like tier A on them, but I think some of the pieces are there, especially if their defense has struggled. He definitely comes from some of that. They added Ben Johnson as well, which should help with the pass game as well. It's just all of these things that if any one of them has a positive effect, they should grow. And if all of them have a positive effect, they should substantially grow. So I got to move them at least up to B. Where in B, I'll say in front of the Steelers. It's semi-randomly chosen. But I do think that some of that is going to progress this year, and it should be enough to move them up to at least solid. I mean, he may become the first, this may be the year finally where we get a Bears quarterback with 30 touchdowns plus. He has the weaponry for it, I think. So I know that's a meager milestone, but you don't need that much to become relevant. So hopefully we'll get some advancement there. Who's your number 2 team?
I'm going to go with Carolina. I think that they're going to make steps similarly to what you were just saying about the Bears. I think that, Bryce is going to evolve a little bit. I really like Teteroa McMillan and what he might end up becoming is very exciting. I think Xavier Leggett had some positives last year, and then Thielen there to kind of be the old man of the group to show them the ropes. I think that's a very functional group. In the backfield, they've got Hubbard, so it kind of keeps things balanced. He's not, I don't think of him tons as a catch and run guy as much. They also got Rico Dowdle now, which I think is a steal for them. And then Tommy Trimble, I don't know what to really expect out of him at tight end. So we'll see. But I still think this team is going to be more of a passing focused team or a more balanced team as Bryce has more time to breathe. So I'm going to move them up to B tier, probably towards the back end of it, but still up into B tier. Yeah, somewhere in there. And I don't know that I would agree necessarily with where some of these other teams are. I think they're, but we're not fixing everything in the world, just these few teams. So yeah, somewhere towards the back end, but steady progress. And they may shock us, honestly, and move up even further than that. I could see that also happening. But yeah, that's what I see. What about you? What are you taking?
My last team I'll take for a mover is sadly is a descender. I think that Miami is in many senses poised to kind of fall apart here. Now, I don't think that they're going to go from what they are now to terrible, but I still think that they might lose Tyreek Hill somewhere between now and the trade deadline, especially if the season starts out rough. I think that scenario is in there. It's still very possible. They did lose Jonnu Smith, which is a bigger portion of their passing game than I think people want to really recognize all the time. And he's not the centerpiece, of course. It's always going to be Waddle and Hill, or at least for as long as they're there. But I do think it's going to come down a bit. And I hate to just clutter up B tier like this, but like it's kind of appropriate, I feel like, for them. So if they lose Hill and they're down to just Waddle, and I don't even know who their best tight end is now. They might have just a committee in there.
Is it Waller maybe?
Yeah, that's right. They brought back Waller from retirement. Yeah, good catch. And so like I don't know what he's going to be with a year removed.
Yeah.
And so it's just they kind of just down to Waddle as a So this is my at the end of the year they could be, and I'm barely not putting them in C tier. So I think it might really take a step back. It'll be a good test for Tua, to be honest, I think, because without all that weaponry, we're going to really see how well he can, push a team. But we'll see. This could be an interesting year for Miami. So, yeah. Well,
that'd be a big change up to that whole division, that's for sure.
Oh gosh, yeah. Especially if the Patriots start to ascend a little bit better, which a lot of people are predicting. But we'll see. But there are a lot of other teams in here that we would move if we just wanted to do this video for the next 3 hours. We'd probably still be at it. But for the time being, we just want to leave this alone. Let us know in the comments where you'd move people, if you think we're insane for moving someone where we did. Anything that you want. And lastly, of course, we're trying to get to 100 subscribers by the start of the 2025 NFL season, which is about 50 days away. We really appreciate everyone who's already subscribed. And if you feel like you're up to it and like this might be kind of interesting for you, we'd appreciate it if you join us again sometime. So until that time, I hope you all have a fantastic week.